Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's Poker Live session, and it's on a very interesting character. One of the best characters, best written characters in Marvel till date. And my name is Sujatama, and I'll be your host on tonight's topic, which is who is the Sentry. Joining me on discussing this character will be Panda. Please introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Panda and I'm a huge Sentry fan, so here I am.
And one of our returning bosses, Zypher. So please introduce yourself to the audience.
Hey guys, I'm Cypher and I'm an even huger Sentry fan. I look forward to this conversation. Can't wait for it to start.
All right, then. Thank you very much. So just to give a bit of, should I say, intro or improv to this, um, for those of for those of us that have watched the Thunderbolts movie, you will understand why this character has been popping up on everybody's feed and so on. Everything he did in the movie, as well as more info about it, will be discussed here. So let me just give those of you that have not watched it that it is going to contain spoilers, but go back. But we'll try as much as possible to give you as much insight about this character as possible. So I'll throw out some questions and I will leave it to our experts to discuss. So the first question is literally the title of this video. Who is Sentry? Why is he so important? And why is his entrance in the MCU at this particular point very, very critical? So I'll start with Zypher, then we'll move to Panda. Let's go.
Alright, so just to clarify, you can hear me well before I enter a rant and find out that it's cracking or anything like that.
We can hear you perfect.
Alright, awesome. So I'm just going to start with a very, very basic overview of Sentry. I'll just give because I don't want to delve too deep yet, so I'll just give his average origin because when he debuted in comics, his origin was slightly different from what has become the standard now. And it's very similar to what they did in Thunderbolts, but a bit different. And Panda and I have had this conversation before, and we might enter one or two things that we've discussed previously. But in the base origin story of Sentry is he was Rob Reynolds, who is the author ego of the base personality of Sentry, was a drug addict with multiple personality disorders. And in one of those like moments where like he had no drugs and he really really needed that high, he broke into a lab and stole a drug there and drank it. Turns out this was the perfected form of the super soldier serum and it worked perfectly on him. And it created this superhero personality called Sentry. But because of his base disorder, it also created an alternate personality and enhanced it because the way the super soldier serum works, even in the MCU, the way it was explained in Falcon and Winter Soldier is it enhances what is already there. It enhances your personality. So someone who is good just becomes better, and then someone who is bad becomes more depraved, you get. So like it just enhances your personalities. And Robert Reynolds has two major personalities. So while it enhanced the good one, it also enhanced the bad one, and it made his multiple personality disorder even worse. It's something they strayed away from in the MCU because in the MCU, the Void is just sort of Sentry after death. Like technically he didn't die, but like there was a flip between Sentry and Void. In the comics, there is the Sentry and the Void, and we can see them interacting with each other at the same time. We can see them fight. So that wasn't really something we got in the MCU, but in the comics, it's more of different personalities that can interact with each other. It's just like Moon Knight with extra steps. So yeah, that's just the base comic origin, the main one that most people refer to. I'll just leave the rest to Panda to mention a couple of things before we delve into the next aspect.
Okay, Panda, let's hear what you have to say about Sentry.
Okay. As we already know, the basics have already been covered mostly. I just want to talk about the void. because the void is a huge aspect of Sentry's existence. Different writers, there are different ways they've represented the void, but one thing we've always known is that the void is meant to be like the opposite of the Sentry persona. In one being the Dark Avengers run, which this movie is loosely based on, the void was seen as an angel of death from the time of Moses, at least. So that's what Norman Osborn explained. But the bottom line is the fact that the void is just meant to be Sentry's dark side or Rob's dark side. This his negative thoughts, his negative feelings towards himself. For each heroic act, I actually enjoyed this explanation. I think it's from Sentry 2003. But for each heroic act that the Sentry himself does, the Void tries to kill or destroy something else in return, like to balance the equation. So as Sentry saves people, the Void tries to stop saving people. Try to kill people to like balance off the scales. And it led to this thing where Rob had to, or Bob had to decide he's not going to be the Sentry anymore. He erased his own memory and the memory of a hero called Sentry from everyone out there. I don't know. It's a very interesting story to me when it comes to Sentry. But also, another thing I find interesting is the introduction of Sentry at this point in time in the MCU. I feel like he's playing a role that would, should I say, be replacing that of Hyperion. And that's something we'll see when we go into Doomsday. But let me not dive too deep into that yet. I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, that's actually very interesting because I would have wanted you to go more into what you see him as at this point because they could have introduced him as several other points. He could have been there during the battle against Thanos. So, looking at Doomsday that is coming on and the fact that Thunderbolt is directly tied into Doomsday, what role in particular do you think the Sentry can play? Because from what we saw, the all powerful nature of him, I don't know. We've not seen anything about Doomsday because sorry about Doctor Doom because first step is coming out in July. But still, it makes it difficult to see Doom do anything to Century. So I want to throw that question to Zypher. Why do you think he will be very important now?
All right. So, base overview. There were two roles potentially from the comics that Sentry could have replaced to the best of, like, that's if they're trying to like match up certain aspects of the comics to the movies. Like they could just decide to just go F it, and then he has one completely different role that isn't even in the comics. But if they are trying to match things up, two things he could have possibly been were the replacement for Molecule Man, Owen Reese, who was the source of Doom's power when Doom recreated the multiverse into one universe. That's the Secret War story. And he was also sort of Doom's power generator, even in Secret Wars, that made Doom essentially untouchable. But Sentry's powers don't really work the same way Molecule Man's powers does. Because like, even though Sentry can essentially do what Molecule Man can do, Molecule Man is more, his powers are depicted in a very different way. So it doesn't match up to Sentry. Like you can't really picture Sentry sitting in a room supplying power to someone in a different universe. That's sort of more Molecule Man, Franklin Richards, and those kinds of cosmic characters. Even though once again, like Sentry is able to do things like that, which left us with the last option. Since we already have Thor, Sentry would most likely be replaced by the Archangel of Hyperion, who, just like Sentry, is a powerhouse. So, problem that we've had with the MCU so far is the setup for Secret Wars. Because in the comics, the setup was Time Runs Out, which was a very long running arc, and it showed us a lot of things about the incursions, about trying to stop the incursions, about trying to avert incursions before we finally got Doom creating the universe in Secret Wars. Because the funny thing about the incursions is Secret Wars isn't about the incursions. The incursions is just the lead up to Secret Wars. Secret Wars is them trying to deal with Doctor Doom after he creates his own universe after his image. So like incursions is really just the setup. But so far we haven't seen much of that setup. But to just bring it back and tie it together, in Time Runs Out, Thor and Hyperion were the two powerhouses that essentially our universe had. Wherein during while they were fighting in Savage Lands, while when they had this fight against the Builders, it was Thor. I'm not sure if you've ever seen that panel of Thor kneeling down in front of, I think it was a builder, and like like it was meant to be this moment where Earth is defeated, our universe is defeated, our strongest being is kneeling down in front of them. We had given up, and then Thor summons Mjolnir, and then it comes through them, and then like he has this whole speech about they can bleed, they can die. So like that was the role that Thor and Hyperion had. They were the muscle, while Reed Richards and Tony Stark were there trying to find a way to avert incursions without necessarily destroying it. The Cabal were there destroying other universes as their way of stopping the incursions. Like we had Doom and Doctor Strange were trying to find a way to just completely avert the whole situation. Thor and Hyperion were the muscle. They were the ones facing people up front. So now that we don't have Hyperion in the MCU, it's most likely that if they need somebody to stand beside Thor in all these battles, if they need a powerhouse, the next best bet is Sentry, which we had this discussion sometime last week. It leads to one of my like favorite scenes in all of comics, wherein Thor and Hyperion are fighting at the end of the universe. They are facing a wave of Beyonders. The two of them, along with Starbrand, are able to defeat one, and then a portal opens, and then a bunch more enter. And then they have this speech where like they are talking to each other. Thor is like, um, there's normally we're supposed to drink a final drink as we go into this battle, and then Hyperion is like, but there's none because we've drank them all, brother. And then like they just have this speech where like they're gingering each other because they know this is going to be their final stand. Thor, who was previously unworthy, lifts his hammer and is like, if I'm facing this, I have to do it as the worthy Thor, not the unworthy. And then the narrator has this speech box. There was lightning, there was thunder, and then there was silence. It was just an epic moment that just completely wrapped up Time Runs Out before Doom creates his own universe. And like I'm hoping we can get something close to that in the MCU. But like that's just essentially where our head is at as of what role Sentry might play.
Okay, that is beautiful. That is intense. You sent those panels to Nerdhead, and I remember as I was reading them, I was just like, "May we see Thor this powerful. If they can give us this, then we can at least we will sacrifice Taika for it. If that is what it takes to see Thor this powerful, yeah." So, Panda, the next question that I want to throw to you is the differences between um uh, Sentry in the comics and Sentry in the MCU, because we know that the MCU, because probably budget and so many other reasons, they tend to downplay characters' powers and abilities. So I want you to explain what the Sentry could be to us, as well as the main differences between the Thunderbolt movie and the comics version.
Okay. Um, s- we haven't seen so much differences, to be honest. I feel like so far the Sentry is one of the most accurate MCU characters when compared with the comic version. But again, because I'm going to so the basics we have is just very similar to comic. I think the only major difference that if you're not counting, oh, when it was introduced, what thing was introduced into is, you understand, if you're not counting all of that, if you're focusing just on the basics, the only difference would be his whole identity. Because in the comics it's really treated as a completely different personality that can be separated from Sentry or Bob himself. Meanwhile, Thunderbolts try to treat it like it was his depression, which I have no issues with. I like the interpretation of it and whatnot. But that's the only key difference. But this brings me into something that was mentioned earlier by Cypher. Yeah, which has to do with Sentry's power and the way it operates or the way it works. Now, he was very right when he said it's very different from Molecule Man's own, but I feel like it's important to also note that in the Dark Avengers arc, which is once again what this story or this movie is loosely based on, Sentry went toe to toe with Molecule Man, where Molecule Man destroyed Sentry and then Sentry destroyed him back. And then I think Molecule Man tried to destroy him again but failed before Sentry fully destroyed Molecule Man. Then next time we saw Molecule Man after this encounter was time runs out when Doom was using him to try and fight whatever damage was happening to the multiverse. I'll go into all of that later. But I found that very interesting, and I think maybe he might also have a similar role going into Doomsday when it comes to his power level. Yeah. Now, I don't see him being used as a battery, as mentioned, but with the way the comic Sentry had a role to where he led Molecule Man down to Doom's layer or destruction of Molecule Man at that point in time, is what led Doom to coming in contact with Molecule Man. Maybe this is just like a random fan theory, but maybe we get something like that with Sentry not understanding how to control his powers yet. Because we need to understand by the end of the movie, Sentry had essentially, spoilers, but Sentry had essentially wiped his own memory again. So everything he had learned so far is gone again. So it's nice to see how that plays out in Doomsday. But anyway, like also mentioned, this still is in line with something that happened in the comics, which was after his first or second appearance, or after the Void's first appearance, knowing what the Void could do, decides to wipe his memory. Now, although in the movies it seemed to have happened involuntarily, initially there's no explanation given. We just know that Bob doesn't remember anything that happens. But very nice that they, follow that plot line.
Okay, okay. Funny enough, that was one of the things that I had. I would say I had an issue with in the Thunderbolt. It's that what they call suddenly he forgets everything he has done type something. I know it's largely due to the trauma and all that, but still. But before I delve deeper into that, the Thunderbolt movie tried to show Sentry as a person that has a god complex. I don't know if that is something that is linked in the comics. I would like for Zypher to shed more light on that. That song Sentry with the god complex.
Sorry, is that for me?
Yeah, yeah, it's for you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, not quite. So, boiling it back to the original depiction of Sentry, because once again, like Panda and I have mentioned multiple times, it's really three personalities: Bob Reynolds, Sentry, and the Void. Like even to the extent, like there are moments where Sentry, because I remember in this his second or third run, I really can't remember the specific years. It's either the 2003 one or the 2007 one. We see Sentry having therapy sessions that Robert Bob himself had no idea about. So like we have three distinct personalities. Void can operate independent of Robert and Sentry, and Sentry can operate independent of Bob and Void. And then Bob obviously operate can operate independent of the both of them. So like Sentry himself doesn't really have a god complex. Like he's a very reasonable person. When he was asked to come and fight Hulk in World War, when we had the World War Hulk storyline and Hulk was raging and he came back and he had defeated the X Men and the Avengers and the Inhumans, Sentry was reluctant to fight him. Like it wasn't a this is my time to shine. Like because he and Hulk are really 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 good friends. They might even like, we might consider them best friends. His best friend will either be Hulk or Reed Richards, but that's a different conversation. So like you could see him empathizing, him talking to the Hulk, trying to calm him down, even when they fought all the way to the standstill and like they ended up in each other's arms. Like Sentry is a very reasonable person. He doesn't have his personality goes from confused to really calm. Like he's either just I don't know what's happening here, or he's trying his best to prevent the void from doing something or anything of the sort. Because like Panda mentioned, the second both times he lost his memory was on purpose. The first time he asked Reed Richards to try and find a way to erase the entire world from to stop the entire world from remembering him. And then the second time I think he did it himself. And all of that is just to protect mankind. So like it's not anything like Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, hovering over everyone, pay your respects type thing. But the Void, on the other hand, he feels like a natural force. He's inevitable, for lack of a better term. So like I would even call it a god complex, but he just is to his own personality. You get. So like yeah, that's just the base summary of both personalities in that sense.
Okay. Now, speaking of one of the questions that have been asked frequently about the Sentry, and it's on the topic of him being Marvel's Superman. So this question is going to Panda. I'm not asking for a direct who will beat who, but in more ways than none, how who would you classify as stronger between the Man of Steel and the Sentry? Yeah, that's for Panda.
Um, I'm sure most can already tell what my answer is going to be, but I mean, this guy was destroyed. He killed Molecule Man twice. I mean, this is
O-
Molecule Man.
Okay,
This
the two
is
of you can take it because it's actually a topic I want full discussion on.
Don't worry, my answer is the same as his own.
I feel like it's not even a debate here because already
Alright.
had debate of say, Superman versus Thor, Superman versus maybe Beta Ray Bill, Superman versus Silver Surfer. Shit, even Superman versus the Galactus seems unfair. But we need to understand that when it comes to Sentry, the character in the comics, everyone just understands that he's above everybody else. Like you see what they try to do in the movie, in the comics, not only did they do that, they proved that countless times. So to be very honest, even without going into Sentry and Molecule Man stuff, I don't see how we can always be arguing Superman versus Thor, Superman versus Silver Surfer, Superman versus Hulk, Superman versus this, when we know that all these characters put together could not hold anything to Sentry when he's going all out, you know. And like I mentioned, Sentry going all out literally one shotted. Like this wasn't even a struggle. He just raised his hand and Monkey Man ceased to be. Even the Beyonder, and I mean pre-Redcon Beyonder could do. This is something that even the Beyonder still could not do in modern time. In short, you need to understand that Doom killed all the Beyonders using Molecule Man, his energy. So I feel like the power level is just something that it's true extraordinary to just be comparing to. No offense, but nah, Superman doesn't come close.
Oh my days. Huja, do you still need me to talk more on that? Panda. Huja left. Panda, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm here.
Okay, I'll just use style to wait for Hujat by just going deeper into it. Everything you said is obviously accurate, and it doesn't even feel like there's a conversation to be had. But like, even if you try and look at like average standard century, normal century fits, like they're still not on the same page. I can remember when I was reading. I think this one was in 2007, or at least that period. It's within I think 2007 to 2010. The Century comics that came out that time that in the first issue he had to battle a herald of Galactus who had this axe that was powered by the cosmic cube, and like Sentry just broke the axe, and I'm like, is this not? This is some Silver Surfer level. Like you have, because like I know right now the cosmic cube isn't that big of a deal, but back then the cosmic cube was like the Infinity Stones of the Marvel universe. Like once you say something is powered by the Cosmic Cube, that means it's really, really powerful. I think I just broke it passively, took zero damage from it. That was when I knew, okay, this is not the conversation to be had. When you bring Dr. Manhattan ahead, we can also say, okay, Sentry versus Dr. Manhattan. But Superman is Superman versus Iron Man that we're still arguing over here.
Yeah, yeah. And also another thing we should think about, like when you mentioned his levels here, just think of the fact that the hacks are just extraordinary. I remember this scan you sent, I think last week or so, when Morgan Le Fray. This is also still from the Dark Avengers arc, one of Century's best arc, by the way. or Morgan
Yep.
Frey tries to not just kill Sentry, but like erase him from existence, if I remember correctly. And you
Yep.
see him vaporize. Only for the Avengers, the new Avengers, the new Avengers series, and you get his Sentry floating. And Hawkeye was like, should we be afraid of this guy? Should we be afraid of this guy? This is not normal. Oh my god! Like if you there's genuinely nothing anyone can do to him. You should understand that literally every single time when he has come close to death or actually died, it was because he wanted to die. He was the
Facts.
one
Yeah.
virtually killing himself. Even again, Molecule Man could not kill him by vaporizing him, turning him to literal atoms. He came back twice. Nah, there's I don't see what most other characters could do
Superman
than
of all people.
exactly. Exactly. And then we now talk about his power output on the other hand. If it's once again decide to ignore his fight with Molecule Man, even his fight with Galactus, his fight with Silver Surfer, his fight with all the powerhouses in Marvel, we decide to ignore all of that and just focus on his minor abilities. Oh my, like,
He's
we need
still
to
not
understand
fair.
it's basically another Molecule Man, matter manipulation. His power is not strength. His power is not flight. This is why I do not like the comparison of Molecule Sentry being a what do you call it, a ripoff of Superman, because his power is not strength. His power is not flight. His power is matter manipulation. He is strong because he manipulated his muscles to be that strong. He becomes weaker depending on how you
Yeah.
manipulate himself. This was something that was explained, I think, by Tony Stark when Tony Stark tried to take him down by messing with his mind. His matter manipulation gives such a huge edge. He has one of the best matter manipulation in all of Marvel Comics, aside Molecule Man himself. And that is only because he
Yeah.
himself, that is Sentry, hasn't decided to focus on the matter manipulation part of his powers. He tries to just use it to amp his strength, maybe create tentacles, and every once in a while, when he's tired of
And
punching and flying, he chooses to try and maybe erase or rearrange matter, but it focuses on punching
Yeah.
and flying. If you decide to be like Molecule Man and focus on matter manipulation, I believe the
Problem.
thing you saw with Galactus from Ultimate, where Galactus went and some Molecule Man toying with a multiverse in a box, that would be Sentry. Like, genuinely
Yeah.
speaking, that would definitely be Sentry.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just heard tentacles. I heard matter manipulation. I heard he chooses his strength to be so and so. And I'm like, all this from a super soldier serum? What exactly was in that super soldier serum? Like, how do you compare what he took with Monica in comparison to the likes of John Walker and Steve? I'm even using John Walker because personally, and it was shown in the Thunderbolt movie, he is a stronger and better what they call a super soldier than Steve Rogers. I won't say he's a better Captain America, but the feats he showed in Thunderbolt almost Steve Rogers still has a long way to go, in my opinion. But I'm like, all these things still goes down to super soldier serum. So how did Century become all this through that?
Yeah, and that's the thing, because like I said I was going to mention his standard origin as against to like the first original origin, because there's a thing about his like the first time when he debuted, where his origin was unknown. It was similar to the Saitama situation, wherein if you ask Saitama how did you become this powerful? He will tell you the push-ups, the runs, all of that. But you know in your heart that there's a deeper reason that Saitama himself doesn't know. It was a similar situation with Sentry, wherein like the comic implied that the origin that he knows comes from a comic book that he read, but like he doesn't actually know his true the source of his power. But like over the ages, over time, they've really just normalized the whole super soldier serum, in the sense that like it's one of those things where Panda and I were having this conversation. It's a random chance of life. No one knows who created the serum. No one has any other sample of the serum. No one knows why it works. It just worked for Bob. So like there's a chance that it was just meant to be. That's why it was. So like it's not there's no innate reason, there's no deep, he didn't have any special blood, he was not created by the celestials for this particular purpose. It just happened to be. And that's just one of the fun things about Sentry's origin as compared to other characters, where you're like, oh, this person was born to be that, this person was raised to be that, this person was trained to be that. Robert just happened to be it. And that's why there's this line in the Thunderbolts that I actually really liked because it emphasized something that really isn't pointed at a lot. More often than not, when someone gains massive power, simply because we're reading from the main character's point of view most of the time, they end up being a good person, right? Sentry is that, like that scene where Valentina was like, of all the people that it would work on, it just had to be a psychopath. It just had to be a madman with multiple personalities. And I'm like, yeah, like it's not even really a good thing. Like the fact that the one person that actually got the chance to get the perfected super soldier serum is someone that is insane in such a way that it magnified his good and his evil personality too. I just find that a nice touch. Like it's not some perfect origin story. He has his flaws, and random chance happened to him and happened to the world as well. So like it's just a nice thing about his origin.
Yeah, just to read some comments from the comment section, we have a starting person we know, Ibrahim Adeshina. He said that the super soldier serum is testosterone that's inside, and that's why he's the way he is. Unexpected. And he too is shocked that Mordecai, all these, or rather, he asked the question. He said that, and these powers of Sentry were man made. I don't know if he's just asking that as if it was Mordecai, it was infused into him or he developed them. I think that's the clarification he wants to get. So whether it was his powers were infused or he just developed them. So any one of you can take that.
Okay, let me. I just want to add on this question. Firstly, to answer that question, depends on which origin you go with. If you're going with the main origin, which once again is the most popular one, is the one that is mostly accepted. He was a drug addict. He went to do drugs, drank super soldier serum, got the powers. Then yes, everything he has came from a bottle, according to Tony Stark. But with the more recent origin, the I think this is Century World book that also tried to explore this. Same thing with the Doctor Strange, whether 2018 or so. But I know around the area when Sentry went to meet Doctor Strange, he found out that his memories have been altered by the void. Yeah, so he decides to go to the stars. So like he was flying around space trying to figure out where he came from. Because the fact is he was too powerful to come from humans. Now there is this story that is kind of non-canon. It was written to be canon. It was written to be based on, the Doctor Strange timeline, but suddenly everyone started calling non-canon. But within that story was that a universe was exploding and Sentry absorbed the entire energy of that universe, blah 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 blah, something like that before it came back to the main universe, something something something. But with the MCU, it's already clear that they're not going to make things that complicated. With the MCU, everything he has came from a bottle. He's literally Steve Rogers on massive, like very large amount of steroids because I don't know how we go from barely able to like I mean see even John Walker that we just said is better than Steve Rogers. Yeah, see how you struggled against like let's say 10, 15 ton rock. I don't know how we went from that to someone who was literally shaking buildings with his strikes and casually turned it into shadow. Like nah, that was such a huge
Yeah.
jump. That was such a huge jump. And I also want to add here, it's a crazy thing to think of how powerful the human race is compared to others. I think this was mentioned during the Time Runs Out event here. Gladiator, that is in comics, he mentioned something about how the humans are so advanced that they are creating all these superheroes here. These other alien races are meant to be more advanced than humans. So if humans can, with our low technology, with our low intelligence in quotes, create all these powerful beings, imagine what could come out from other races. But somehow, I guess maybe we're just more advanced in medicine than other races are. Other races are advanced in technology or some stuff like that because um, this is what humans can create. So one that is challenging Prada. Jesus Christ.
The question will be: Are
Yeah.
we more advanced, or are we using main character plot energy right here? Because
A
and
funny
now
thing,
speaking of which, okay, go ahead.
yeah, because it's just a slight detail. Because on another group that Panda and I are on, like we had this like someone, I think maybe even Hermit, brought this argument that like he wanted us to like go into, to pick a race and defend the race as the strongest race in comics. And unironically, the strongest race happens to be humans. Like if you're going to make an argument that okay, this race versus this race, the Kryptonians versus humans versus the Asgardians versus, you would find out that the humans who have the smartest, they have the strongest, they have, so like I think the only thing that might come close would probably be like mutants, because mutants across of DC and Marvel are a lot. But like the human race, actually, you can make an argument for them being the strongest race amongst all the alien races and all the cybernetics and all the robotics and everything. And it's just crazy to imagine that at the end of the day, because like even in Time Runs Out, when the entire universe came together to try and stop the builders, can you guess who the leader of the faction was? Like the entire universe, the person that led them into battle. Can you guess who it was?
Captain America.
Captain America. Like it was a crazy thing. You have Gladiator standing at the back, you have Ronan the Accuser, you have Thor, and standing in front is Captain America. Like it's just a crazy thing to picture.
Yeah. And a slight detour talk. I can't wait for either an animated version or what they call it, MCU version of the Avengers versus the Mutants. Now that mutants are very much canonized in the MCU based on X-Men 97 and all that. And with this
Yep, yep.
first steps, and of course Doomsday, I really yeah, we are definitely seeing a lot more of mutants. So when that gets animated or gets into the MCU, that's going to be another crazy story. Like Marvel has a lot of future. Oh. That's a lot of things right laying in front of us. But to the next question
Yeah.
that I saw, people are talking about ho- um this Thor. So they say they wanted to use Infinity War version of Thor because in the MCU, that's the most powerful version of Thor that we've seen. So Infinity version Thor versus this current Sentry. Somebody wants to know how much Thor will fare in this. So Panda, can you take that?
Okay, first thing I want to say is, logically speaking, Love and Thunder Thor is meant to be the most powerful version, having, that's basically Thor after Endgame, now going back to get himself back to his powerful self. And I mean, firstly, I hate Taika, but he did try to show that with his reference to Thor being above Zeus and killing Zeus, even though Zeus is the most powerful god and this and that. But here's the thing: when it comes to Sentry versus anybody, right? We have two things to think about. We're either going to choose to go by statements, which, as we know, is a very shaky way of arguments, or feats. If we're going by feats alone, Sentry doesn't stand a chance against someone like Thor, to be very honest, with all Thor has shown. But again, Thor has had so much appearances. Sentry as a hero, as a character that is doesn't even know how to use his powers, but barely learning how to use his powers, still had barely 5 minutes of screen time. So if you want to go by statements, all the hype around him, according to Valentina, even from the promotional material, all the things that was said about this character they're introducing, then it stands to reason that Sentry definitely would easily take Thor with the way they're explaining, oh, he's more powerful than all the Avengers combined. He even mentioned he's a god because, of course, he's more powerful than Thor, who is a god. He mentioned the Avengers having at least one god among the team, and he's more powerful than all of them put together. So, of course, he should be a god. But then again, he went up against casual super soldiers, yeah, casual super soldiers. And going by what he has shown so far, again, most of us do not like to just base our arguments on only statements. So it won't make sense to try and start pushing such an agenda. But if we are going by writer intent, if you're going by the intention of the producer, the director, everyone that had a hand in the movie, then yes, Sentry should take Thor. Even in the comics, Thor and Sentry have gone toe to toe multiple times. I always say this thing: Sentry has not only defeated but raped Thor 7 different times in the comics.
Oh,
7 different times. Like, no, it's not even a joke at this point. That is what made me actually start liking Sentry. The first time he went up against Thor, he beat the shit out of him. Second time in the same room, beat the shit out of him again. We rushed him through Asgard. I'm like, Jesus Christ. That's just evil. Not only are you beating him, but you use him to destroy Asgard. No, no. And then it just kept happening and happening and happening. So yeah, Sentry is basically written to be above Thor. But we have to wait to see more feats from him. Let's see what Doomsday has in
that,
store for us. The thing is, I know for a fact Doomsday is going to be a Doom defeating Sentry type of situation. Let's just hope we get more feats from Sentry before Doom comes and
okay then.
really
That's why.
gets
Do you have anything to add to that? And but before you speak, I just
well,
wanted to make a comment on what Panda mentioned. It reminded me. I don't. I think it's Earth's mightiest hero, but a time whereby Hulk went to Asgard and he beat everybody and even beat the shit out of Thor. So beating the shit out of Thor as a staple for being the strongest, I believe, is a valid point of argument. But therefore, what do you have anything to add on what Panda said?
Not really. At the end of the day, like everything you said is facts. Like if you're going by statements, then it has to be sent. But we really don't like using statements. Because a bunch of ridiculous statements that you would hear over comics, like both in like the movie adaptations and the comics itself. So like by using statements to scale Captain America to Superman, you will see the problem. So like we don't really like using statements. But like if you're going feet for feet, then Thor very easily outfits Sentry. The only problem, and this is the it's similar to the no limit fallacy problem that comes with trying to argue against Saitama, and I feel like it holds true for Sentry as well. It's that you don't know what can take Sentry down. Like Thor might have the force to punch a planet and break it into 20 different pieces, and you still cannot convince me without a doubt that that is enough to take Sentry down. So that's just the only problem. That's why I'm going to stay away from Sentry arguments for the time being. Because like you can't convince me that matter manipulation will work on him. You can't convince me that this level of force will move him. Like even though we didn't see like him face anyone that is challenging, you still can't try and convince me that yeah, if I punch him this hard, he will bleed. Because like I haven't seen him bleed. It's just that no limit fallacy. Like until I see him go up against someone that can stagger him, I cannot say okay, if this person can stagger him with this amount of force, maybe times 10 of that force can do this. But like nobody has like he didn't even shake once. So like, I can't even begin to scale up from there. So I'll just stay away from all things Sentry. But like Panda said, if you're going fit for fit, what is Sentry's hardest punch? What is Thor's hardest punch? What has Sentry tanked? What has Thor tanked? Then it's not even a fair comparison because like Thor clearly outclasses. But then when you take into consideration certain things like even if you kill Sentry, you end up with the void and you're not killing the void. That's when you now have that sort of stalemate. Because that worst case scenario, Sentry they had a kill switch in his brain, and it just unlocked the void. And when they trapped the void, or rather when they locked the void back, we got Bob back to normal. So like it's just that endless cycle of he's not going to die, and you don't want to face the void. So like yeah, that's just my thought on it. But personally, from now henceforth, I'll just be avoiding Sentry conversations until Doomsday lands.
Yeah. And before, just to make a comment on that, just hold on it that this thing, because we have some busy boys who are diehard DC fans that they are waiting for their July movie to show so that they can make one or two. I hope they know for a fact that the first scene in the trailer is Superman begging for his life. They beg Douglas to carry and go, you don't tire. And our Century as far nothing, not even a scratch. And
I don't know. There's
last night, they go
something.
just continue, continue.
There was something I don't know if you noticed, but like in the first Superman trailer that dropped, there was this thing where someone threw a can at him. I'm not sure if it was a can drink or like, but they threw a tin can at him, and he flinched. and like everyone was just insulting like, oh, Superman and Brandon Routh, Superman got shot in the eye and it did nothing to him. Henry Cavill took machine gun fire, blah blah blah. And then this guy, they threw a can on his head and he felt it and flinched. In the last Superman trailer that they dropped, they edited that scene out, and I was just laughing at myself, like, oh my days, they actually got pressured by the fans into removing something that they felt would be a good touch to make him more human. So that when it comes to James Gunn's Superman, I'm not even worried about fits from him. Like I'm very certain. Panda is my witness. We'll do Iron Man versus that Superman. That's RDJ's Iron Man, and it will still be an
Yeah.
easy win for us. So like I'm not even worried about that.
So just let me just give a shout out to Zizi. Oh God, I'm dead. So that he knows that we are talking about him, that we didn't go through his back, we did it online. So moving on to another question. This goes to Panda. What would you say about Mordecai, the possible Sentry and Doom interaction that may happen in Doomsday? I know I've asked a version of the question, but I want to just center it on Sentry and Doom. What can you say about that, Panda?
Okay. I think I've kind of mentioned this, but I think I really theorize that Sentry is just going to be someone that Doom will just come and defeat. Might be that Doom will defeat him, take his power, use his power. Maybe he might not end up being a battery source like Molecule Man, but I think he's there to be
in
defeated by
my in my hostel, I had like when I was about to leave, like the porter at the hostel, the woman that helps I just keep track of everyone and everything like that. She was telling me, oh, when I get back that we should exchange numbers so that she.
Oh, oh,
Hello.
yeah.
what is that? Because I was wondering where this was going. I was really wondering where
Exactly.
this was going.
Completely unrelated. Sorry, I had a call
Probably use
quickly.
your money because the porter knew more about Sentry, and I was like, man, it's the same woman.
Sorry, I'll be gone for like 30 seconds. Sorry.
All right, then no
Okay.
problem.
So like I was saying, I think Domi maybe he takes his power, but to be very honest, I believe, especially seeing as Loki is confirmed to be in the movie, that will be Loki's role to be the battery. So I really think Sentry is going to be, the way Sentry played out in King in Black, where you're like, oh, we have a Sentry, and he comes in soloing all the Celestials and whatnot, flies through like five Celestials heads or the whatever, only to get one shotted by Null. They're trying to use that to power powerful. Not is here. It'll be a very similar thing with Doom. I don't think Sentry can play the molecule man role as Cypher said. And why I actually think that is because Time Runs Out has this very interesting thing where it does this mystery of what is happening to the multiverse. Why is this incursions happening? We know the incursions stay happening because two universes were got exploded or something. So the incursions stay happening. But what caused the first explosion? So like 1 full year, we are following different comics and seeing how different characters are trying to fight incursions. And at the very last issue before Secret Wars begins, you see everything was caused by Doom and Molecule Man. Molecule Man has this integral part in the story where he's the same in each universe in the multiverse. Apparently, one of his atoms is basically a version of him in that universe or something. That's why I don't think Sentry can play the role of Molecule Man. Because I said they want to give him such a complicated story. I really don't think they're even going to go into that complex detail. But yeah, I think he's definitely going to get killed by Zoom. I have my money on
Hmm?
that. Don't kill him, most likely. Use him as a power source or absorb his power, maybe. But he's going to go toe to toe with Doom and get killed, most likely.
That that is something that I'm finding a bit hard to swallow because he's just a character that's just been introduced. Do you think Marvel can just take him off because it seems like as if he's supposed to serve as a very integral part to the future of the what they call it, to the MCU. So Well, that is a very interesting theory. I'll leave it to the comment section to say what they think about it. We still have a very strong commenter, Ibrahim Additional, saying, Mordecai, that's crazy. Because even I'm like, ha, that's actually an interesting aspect to look at. Thank you for that. So while we wait for Zypher to return, I have another question about these incursions once again, because at the end of Multiverse of Madness, we saw someone come to meet Doctor Strange concerning that. You understand? So I don't. We've had a live whereby we spoke about the incursions and so on. But I just want you to remind the audience what incursions are so that they can see the seriousness of Doomsday. Yeah.
Okay. Incursions basically are when two universes collide. They collide being and their focal point being the Earth. The Earth apparently is like the middle point of the universe. In the comics, the movies never explain that. But two universes are moving closer to each other and eventually both Earths collide. So in the comics, the movies again haven't explained this. I've gone to the movies, but in the comics, the only way to stop an incursion is to destroy the other Earth, killing every human on the Earth, or destroy your own
Oh.
Earth, killing every human on your Earth, so that both universes will just slide past each other. If you don't do that, both universes collide, both universes explode, everyone living in both universes die. In the MCU, it's a similar thing, although we aren't giving serious explanations. We do know the reason incursions happen in the MCU is because someone from one universe goes to another universe. So, according to Reed Richards, it causes the boundary of both universes to erode, and that's what leads to both universes being attracted to each other, and eventually they collide, leading to the collapse of reality in both universes. So, this guy, Doctor Strange, dream walking, because if you remember, the final fight in Multiverse of Madness a body of a different strange from the beginning. He
Yeah.
dream walked into zombie strange, and I believe that is what caused the incursion that Claire came to warn him about. So hopefully we get Doctor Strange 3, where we get to see and get more information about this before Doomsday. Hopefully. They should. I don't think we can, but that would have been nice to get so much more information about this entire thing before Doomsday plays out. But yeah,
Yeah. So speaking of which, also you know that at the end of the um Falcon movie that came out earlier, there was this aspect whereby they mentioned, I think it's the post credit scene where they were talking to Falcon and they told him that you think you are ready for what comes. I wonder what you would do when it is heroes versus heroes. I think that was something that gave a hint towards incursions and so. So it's also something I'm expecting. And you know that we saw some live leaks. I think you were even the one that sent it to us in Nerdhead about that we saw Hawk, Scar, this girl was her name, She-Hulk and the rest, and so many other characters in it. What theories do you have about that? Why do you think those characters are there, and what can you say for people to expect in Doomsday? Yeah.
okay. I think those scans will play, those leaks will play a better role in Secret Wars. Because in Secret Wars, apparently after Doom ends up destroying the remaining universes, because the remaining, say, a few thousand universes were destroyed by Doom's fighting the Beyonders, he then takes tiny pieces of different realities and merge them together into his own personal universe, which he was called Battle World. So I think what we saw there, because minus those Hulks, those three Hulks being Scar, Hulk, She Hulk, those were the main characters. In the background, we saw other Hulks, we were like an entire Hulk village. Yeah. So genuinely, I think it's just a similar thing that the MC is going for. At the ending, Doom wins. Maybe we see an Avengers versus X Men battle. I genuinely believe we're going to see that. They focus on the incursions, and then at the ending, similar to Time Runs Out, it is revealed Doom either knew about the this from the beginning, or Doom caused this, or Doom had a solution to this, and he, creates Battle World where he joins the different realities together, and that's how we get that Hulk village with Hulk from different universes. And if you remember, one of the scans or leaks that was sent involved someone being chained up, someone that has long hair being chained up, and the guy was oozing out energy. Now there are two people that this could be: Sentry again, or, and I think it's Loki. I mean, he fits the description better, especially with him being in the center of the multiverse right now. I believe Loki. So these are my two top theories from those leaks that I sent. These are my focuses because I feel like Loki is playing, especially, see, he was also confirmed from for what they call this shit for Doomsday. So I do think that would be Loki. If it's not him, then my bet's on Loki.
Okay, that's very interesting. From the comments, someone has a question about Battle World. He's asking if that is where Spider-Man discovers symbiotes. It says a question directed to you. Oh, oh, well, maybe we give a bit of a moment to see if they can join back. But in the meantime, I'm just going to look through the comments to mention some of the things that are there. Oh, they are mostly questions for those that are. Wait, okay, Zephyr is back. Thank you very much. Could you? There was a question that was asked up to Panda, which is about Battle World, and it was asking if that is where
Finally,
Peter, Peter Parker will cover the symbiote. What can you say about that?
if that's where what?
Peter Parker will discover the symbiote. That Battle World, if that's where Peter Parker discovers symbiote, that's the question.
It's an interesting theory, and I have seen it before. But a thing of curiosity is, I think the next Spider-Man movie happens in between. Panda, help me confirm if it happens before Doomsday or in between Doomsday and Secret Wars. But everyone has that theory that the next Spider-Man movie will tie into the whole Secret War plot line, and the movie could be about Spider-Man trying to navigate the battle world or something to that regard. I really hope it isn't. I hope Spider-Man 4 is just a Spider-Man movie, a normal Spider-Man movie. I don't want anything multiversal. I don't want anything massive. Just normal Peter Parker friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. In which case, it's probably not going to be where the whole battle worlds, because I think that was what happened in the original Secret Wars. Like that's why everyone is trying to tie those two things together. That maybe that's what they are going to do here. It's a possibility, but I really hope not. I hope they just do the Venom story in the next Spider-Man movie, wherein like it kind of lends into the fact that he's all alone now, maybe feed into the rage of him losing Aunt May and all of that, and just tie up that story perfectly. Maybe he can carry the Venom suit into Secret Wars so that he's more of a huge player, because like enhanced strength and speed and agility and all of that. But I really hope that's not the route they go with Spider-Man 4 and with Venom.
Well,
I want to
that's
add,
uh,
it's interesting or it's important to remember that the post-credit scene for the last Spider-Man movie, yeah, has Venom leaving the symbiote behind in 616 universe. So
yeah,
yeah, when we think of all of this, I see why people are making that theory once again, especially since the first time Spider-Man wears the blacks is during Secret Wars, the first one in the 1980s. So I mean, I really think, yeah, I think the MCU would not want to pass up on that opportunity. The dogs connect too perfectly. And I feel like this is the best way for them to give him a new suit without discarding the new suit he just made, if you get what I mean. Now, on the it being a grounded Spider-Man movie, I think we all want that. Yeah, we've gotten so much Spider-Man doing massive things. We need some street level Spider-Man. And given the way the last Spider-Man movie ended, that's what we are looking forward to. So to now go from teasing us about street level beginner Spider-Man, Spider-Man becomes law, and I'll go back to Spider-Man doing multiversal level stuff. Nah, it doesn't seem right. I do think because I was asked where it falls in, then Spider-Man Brand New Day, it's called Brand New Day, comes out after Doomsday. That's when it comes out, but we do not know when the movie itself is based. Now, most people are theorizing since it comes out after Doomsday, it's either one of two things. Either one, it is based like it's happening as the events of Doomsday is playing out, or it happens after Doomsday. Now, here's something I want to point out as to how they can still make it grounded. When Doom created Battle World in Secret Wars, he wiped everyone's memory. So everyone thought this was the normal universe. They thought these way things had always been, and Doom was always their leader or whatever. Maybe they could do something similar where we still have a version of New York. Not much has changed. I mean, after all, they already told us that the main cast being Zendaya and what's the name of that guy that plays Ned, they are not returning. So with this, they can easily bring a new set of like a new cast, bring Mary Jane, bring she's already cast someone with red hair or something. So they can easily just use that as an excuse to give us a new cast, a new and still have it be ground level. This way we are somehow exploring Battle World, but still getting a grounded Spider-Man movie. And by the way, it fits the theme of Brand New Day. I don't know, it kind of fits on a metaphorical level.
Yeah. And one thing I want to mention, I don't know, there was one what do you call it, a set of panels for Spider-Man that I read wa- a while back, whereby Spider-Man did not know who he was. It was a situation whereby he was discovering himself through the process. So I don't know if that is Spider-Man in Battle that you're referring to. I don't know if you actually know what I'm talking about. But it was basically Spider-Man, Peter Parker living a normal life. Everybody was alive. I think Ben was alive. So was Jane. Sorry, so was Aunt May. And but he kept feeling like there was something odd about himself. And that was how towards the end he regained his memory and realized that he is Spider-Man. I don't know if that is the battle world you guys are talking about. Could you confirm that for me?
So here's the thing, yeah. In there are two. I have this problem with the comics. There are two battle worlds, so to speak. In the original Secret Wars, the battle world in quotation was created by the Beyonders. By the Beyonders, sorry, singular, not Doom. And he just took pieces of Earth and placed them together, and then carried heroes from Earth, and then carried hero and villains from Earth, and put them on the same planet, and just sat down and watched how they interacted. I've told Panda this is my preferred storyline. This is not what the MCU is going with the talk of incursion and everything. It's clearly the second. Um, technically the third secret was, but like the main secret was. So in the first one, which is where Spider Peter first donned the black suit, as previously mentioned, all of them had their memories. All they didn't have is any idea how they ended up there and what they were supposed to do. Everyone, like, it wasn't a new universe. It was just he just took them outside of where they were familiar with, created a new planet for them. It wasn't as like a clear cut object. It wasn't like he created a new place. It was it was a spherical object. It was a planet that it wouldn't be from that scene you saw that because in that it wouldn't be from that scene you saw that because in that scene you saw that
Wait, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? I want to know if it's my network. Hey, Panda, can you hear me? Panda. Uh, Nigeria and its network. I don't know if Panda can hear me. And if there's anybody in the audience that can hear me, please signify in the comment section. Okay, Panda, you can hear me.
can hear you. I can hear you.
All right, so that means it was Dapper's network that got messed up. All right then. So because of our time on the stream, I would just like you to say a few last words. Any other unfinished topic, we'll be putting it on the next stream. So on the next live video. So just a few more comments from you about Century, about what we should expect from Doomsday, and maybe it's a tiny teasers from First Steps. So then we use that to round up.
Okay. Firstly, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, good. Um, so far, I want to say I've enjoyed the depiction of Sentry in the MCU. I didn't know I was going to enjoy it. Coming into or saying that Sentry was going to be introduced against a team like the Thunderbolts. Sure, I was really skeptical, but they pulled it off. I'm not getting to like they did. Yes, I'd love to see Sentry in more feats, but story wise, it was well done. It was really well done. Like I did mention before, let's see what Doomsday has in store for us when it comes to Sentry and his feats, because I do Doom kill Sentry. Oh, and I remember something was mentioned about Sentry being killed off so soon. I just want to also point out, remember the way Infinity War had a lot of characters killed off and then brought back at the end of Endgame? Expect a very
Well,
similar
well,
thing with
well,
Doomsday.
well,
Like, let's just
fair.
expect a very similar thing with Doomsday. Because we know for a fact, yeah, because now this is me going into what to expect with Doomsday. I'm willing to bet that we're going to get a Avengers versus X-Men universe type of story in Doomsday. At the end of the Marvels, Monica Rambeau got stuck in the X-Men universe. Or at least we saw her talking with Beast. And Beast mentioned, let's talk with Professor X. Yeah. And now in the cast for Doomsday, we do see the person playing Beast was mentioned, I think Kessler, Gramer, or whatever. And then even Patrick Stewart, Professor X, was mentioned. So I believe Monica gets stuck in that universe. And somehow they tied this to Deadpool, I think, where it is the same universe with Deadpool. And that is what causes the incursion between 616 and that universe. That is my suspicion. And somehow they try to figure it out together, like in the comics. But then eventually we get an Avengers versus X-Men story, or maybe that's the final big fight, you know. But then as that's going on, we get Doom in the background doing his stuff. What I cannot figure out is where the Fantastic Four or what role the Fantastic Four plays in all of this. We already see them coming into the 616 by the end of Thunderbolts. So we can expect
Panda.
that by the end of First Steps, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. There was something I saw today, and I was going to ask about it. And since we're on the topic of Avengers versus X-Men, there's no better time to ask. There were we got some more set leaked photos for Doomsday, and we saw the body of a comic accurate Sentinel. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I have. I have.
What? How do you
Ooh.
think that factors into all of this? Because that feels like either we're getting Avengers versus the Sentinels or X Men versus the Sentinels. Because I don't think we're getting Avengers and X Men versus the Sentinels. It just feels like there's a lot of ways they can go with it. Because the way you're thinking about it was actually the opposite way I thought about it. I figured at the beginning of the incursion is where we'll get Avengers versus X Men, and then they would eventually realize there has to be a better way to solve this, and then work together to try and prevent it from happening, but it will still happen. But you have the opposite view wherein they come in and then they start working together, then eventually it all falls into a battle, and both of them are very valid. So like now seeing that the Sentinels are involved, we're getting the comic accurate X-Men, like you mentioned, the Fantastic Four are still there, we have the Avengers, we have the new Avengers, we have Loki and the TVA. Like there's just so many factors to consider in this. Like what's your thought on all of that?
Okay, firstly, about the arrangement stuff, I just want to point out either way still works, like you mentioned. It all just comes down to the fact that we both know that Avengers must fight X-Men at least once in the movie. But however they choose to write the story, that's up to them. That's left to them to try and surprise us. Now, for the Sentinels, when I first saw it, what I was thinking of was maybe this is more like an Easter egg, just referencing all this. But no, I don't think that's what this is. Yeah, because this was the Sentinel body was shown beside a battleground. The ground was all statues or whatever. So I do think it's most likely we get an X-Men versus Sentinels. Maybe this is how they introduce us back to seeing the power level of the X-Men. Because all this while, most of the people going into this movie have been watching Marvel movies. We've seen the Avengers, we've come to like them, we've come to care about these characters. We just finished watching Thunderbolts. We're just going to watch First Steps, and then we'll now dive into Doomsday. So, of course, we care about these characters already. Now, we need to be introduced to the X-Men characters. And I think having them fight a comic accurate version of the Sentinels is a good way to introduce us to what these characters are like, how they operate together. Maybe showing how they are also like a family together. It builds up the tension when we finally see Avengers versus X-Men. Because if you remember, one thing we always discussed about when we didn't even know that we are going to use the X-Men for this was we need an alternate universe where we care about the characters. So that when the Avengers goes up against them, just like in the comics, we are like, because in the comic it was 616 versus the Ultimate Universe. That was the final incursion. And everyone was like, who do we want to win? We like 616, but we like the Ultimate Universe depiction of these characters. We care about them too. Not like we want one universe to be gone. So we needed that with the MCU. And I think that's why they're using Fox characters and having them showing their is a good way to make us care about them again. Because most of us did not even care about them when they were in their own movie. So I don't think how. So you need to make us care about them. I think that's a huge work for the Russo brothers to carry out.
Yeah, that's a very beautiful point. Due to that, we'll have to that will be all for today. I want to thank everybody that came in and for your very well accurate description for it. You answered a lot of questions that we have, and I believe everybody right now are very much excited for Doomsday and even for Festus and for more of the MCU. We can officially say Marvel is back, but I beg we will just ignore the fact that there's something called Riri Williams and Iron, whatever that is coming soon. We'll just focus on
I
the
have no
MCU
idea what
movie.
you're talking about, G.
Yeah, exactly. Let's be clear on that. So thank you very much for everyone that joined us for this live. Once again, my name is Hujat Sama, and this is the poker. And with me was Panda and Zypher. So till next time, thank you.